Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to your apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned the truth from him will do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Until you, I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, We Might Get Locked Up for This Truth. Because ultimately, persecution for the members of the hopeful elect of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai has pretty much already begun. Just like in the ancient times of our forefathers, the prophets and the believers of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai have always been persecuted, not just by the heathen nation, but ultimately even our own people of the nation of Israel that comprise of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because majority of our people of Jake, they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to leave captivity. They want the enemy to be over them. So when the prophets are out there on the highways and byways prophesying the destruction of this wicked kingdom, warning our people to get right before all hells break loose, ultimately they don't want to hear that. Just like in the time of Jeremiah, they didn't want to hear what he had to say, so they put him in a pit. In the time of Daniel, he got put in prison, and even during the time of the disciples that later became apostles, it was always persecution, and a lot of times it was our own people, coming against the prophets of the Lord, because Jake is wicked. They don't want to hear the truth. And ultimately, when this devil comes down with that great wrath, you're gonna have certain people in the world, maybe even your own family, turn against you because of the testimony of Yahushai. But ultimately, we know that some brothers are going to get caught up in that and be martyrs for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. But also, some brothers are going to get caught up to be a testimony of the deliverance and the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, because not every brother is going to get locked up, but some brothers are going to get caught up in that. Some to be martyrs, and some to get delivered to show the saving power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. This is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And ultimately, the devil, which this is speaking of, isn't speaking of the spiritual demon Satan in hell, place underneath, mythological place where you burn forever, and the devil was poking you with a pitchfork. No, ultimately this devil is going into the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, which is a white man, which is Esau, Edom, the adversary of the nation of Israel. When this devil, he has no other option but to come down on the prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and the believers, that standard will be lifted up. Some brothers will be provided with spiritual power, but ultimately some members of the elect will be caught up and be put in these detention centers, in these prisons. Some brothers to have their faith tested and be a martyr for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, but also some brothers will get delivered, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to show his saving power. Here, you might be locked up in a maximum security prison in the middle of nowhere. And next thing you know, an angel comes and delivers you. And I'm going to go into this account, because it happened to Peter. Peter was locked up, because his own wicked ass people, the Israelites, they wanted him locked up because of what he was saying. They felt cut in the spirit, and it's the same thing today. Our own people be the main ones who want to put hands on us and put us to death. They be telling us, get off the streets, get a job, you bums, go get you some money. You're wasting your time out there on the highways and byways. So when Edom comes down with that great wrath, it's going to be nothing for our people to turn us in. This is Acts chapter 12 and verse 1. Now about that time that Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. Verse 2, and he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword. Verse 3, and because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. So here you got one of the disciples that later became apostles, got put to death. Because ultimately, it was always our own people that wanted us gone, that didn't want to hear what Yahweh Shema Shai had to say, that wanted to stay in captivity. And it's the same thing today. So when Edom comes down with that great wrath, because ultimately Herod was an Edomite, it's going to be the same thing today. He's going to come down with that great wrath. He's going to offer incentives to our family members, people that you knew in the world. And there's going to be nothing for these people who aren't in the truth to turn us in. Verse 4, and when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter, which Easter is during the time of the Passover. That's not talking about no bunnies and eggs. No, that's going into the feast of unleavened bread. It says to bring him forth to the people. Verse 5, Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church until Yahweh Bashim Shai for him. So, Peter got locked up, and the church knew. It would be like today, a brother, that's out there on the highways and byways preaching, on fire. And next thing you know, the brothers notice that, he's not texting in the chat. He hasn't put up a video. He just went completely missing. And it is going to come to that point, we're going to notice that a brother's gone. And ultimately, we know that ultimately Edom's going to come down with that great wrath to try to put us to death, put some of us in prison, to make us try to, denounce our faith and take the MOTB. But ultimately, the elect aren't going to be, they're not going to fold, because Yahweh Bashim Shai is going to keep them. He's going to put the spirit on them to endure to the end. Verse 6, and when Herod would have brought him forth, the same night Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. So here, Peter was, in a maximum security prison, locked up with no way out. And that's how it's going to look for some brothers. You're going to be in the middle of nowhere. You might be in an ocean, not knowing how am I going to get out of this. But ultimately, we're going to call upon Yahweh Bashim Shai, just like we're doing now. How much more during those times, when we're in prison, it looks like we have no way out. But ultimately, we're gonna fully trust and put our faith in Yahweh Bashim Shai. Verse 7, and behold, the angel of the Lord came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side and raised him up, saying, arise up quickly, and his chains fell off from his hands. So here Yahweh Bashim Shai sent the angel to deliver Peter. He completely locked up, shackled up, chained up, in maximum security prison. But here an angel of the Lord came and knocked all of those chains off his hands, and he was free. Verse 8, And the angel said unto him, Gird thyself and bind on thy sandals. And so he did. And he said unto him, Cast thy garment about thee and follow me. So here the angel of the Lord is leading Peter out of prison. Here you in a maximum security prison, looking like it's no way out. But then Yahweh Shema Shai sends an angel to come deliver you. That's how it's going to be for a lot of brothers, that aren't going to be martyrs. That's how it's going to look. You looks like there's no way out. But Yahweh Shema Shai sends an angel to deliver you. Ultimately to show the power, the saving power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Verse 9, and he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true which was done by the angel, but thought he saw a vision. So, here Peter thinks that, it's a vision, that, there's no angel, but the angels are going to they're already revealing themselves, through the chariots. It might be what you think is a random stranger, but then it turns out to be an angel. Some have entertained angels unaware. Verse 10, when they were past the first and the second ward, they came into the iron gate, and leadeth unto the city, which opened to them of his own accord. And they went out and passed on through one street, and forthwith the angel departed from him. So the angel was leading Peter out of that maximum security prison. Here is looking like there's no way out, but you got the angel of the Lord leading you. Just follow me, and we're gonna, break free out of this. Verse 11, and when Peter was come to himself, he said, Now I know of a surety that the Lord has sent his angel, and had delivered me out of the hand of Herod, and from all the expectation of the people of the Jews. So here, Peter thinks that he's through, he's done, that, I might, be a martyr, but ultimately there's a lot of some brothers, and, we can't get upset, because ultimately Yahweh Shema Shai has already appointed, each slot to each individual follower of Yahweh Shema Shai, either the prophets or the believers. Some brothers and sisters, believers, we might have to be martyrs for the testimony of Yahweh Shai. But we got to be okay with that lot. We got to accept, just like Yahweh Shai did, when he was in the garden, the Garden of Gethsemane. We're all going to have that moment where we're going to accept what we're going to have to go through. Either, be a martyr, but also we might be in that prison and get delivered by the power of Yahweh Shema Shai. And ultimately we got to have faith in that either, we may have to be a martyr, or we're going to get delivered, and we have to accept that lot, because ultimately it's Yahweh Shema Shai's will. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned the truth from him who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom.